What up, Marsh Pod? We are live back at you yet again. We're recording this Monday morning. We've got a weekend full of SimWorld prep activity. Some big news right out the gate that we'll get to. Alternate location. We're in Jacksonville right now, ahead of the Jags-Bengals Monday Night Football game. So we'll report back. Not a shock to anyone that's paid attention on the Duval train for quite a while. We'll see how this one, the first primetime game, regular season Monday night, the team has played in like a decade. We were up here for the Tennessee game last season, week 18, which was essentially a playoff game, what they flexed to Saturday night. That place was jumping. I don't know that it's going to be quite as rowdy tonight, but fingers crossed. Before we talk SimWorld prep, I wanted to actually talk association. And this is as much therapeutic as a Warriors fan, but I've got serious question marks about Steve Kerr. This is a Warriors team that's below 500 for the second straight season. They have been unable to close out games. On Saturday, they blew their second 20-point game to the Clippers after they did that, second in 3 games, after they did that to the Kings with a chance to advance in the in-season tournament. They blew a 24-point second-half lead. This team, under Kerr's tutelage, has been really good. A lot of that, though, is due to the fact that Steph Curry is your starting point guard. And he's a top 10 player at this point in the NBA. He's unquestioned the best shooter that the league has had. And you can make your arguments of best point guard. I'm not saying that it's there, but there's a serious argument to be made. I understand Magic Johnson as a fair argument, but Curry's got a case. But what this team has done since 2020, when they lost Steph, Clay was out, and they ended up sitting Draymond for a lot of that season in which they won 15 games, they have never committed themselves to playing young players. And so season after season since that year, and I'm not saying that James Wiseman's career would have been changed had this happened, but ever since they had the number 2 overall pick in the COVID draft, this team has said, well, rookies got to prove their worth. And now you say young players got to prove their worth. You've got to prove that you deserve minutes. Well, when you don't give a player the leash, especially a young player, the leash to make mistakes and get better, guess what happens? He never gets better. So they have turned in a 15-win season. The only reason Jordan Poole became anything was because he was the worst player in the NBA during that COVID season, 2019 to 2020. He gets an opportunity, though, to make mistakes, to improve. Now, and I'm not saying he's a great basketball player, but he was incredibly impactful during that 2022 playoff run. And even during that season before, 21 championship run, before that, when they were losing to the Lakers in the play-in tournament, Jordan Poole wasn't even playing at the beginning of that season until finally Steve Kerr said, okay, guess what? Brad Wanamaker isn't actually better than this guy. And so now the Warriors, they have this same issue with Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga and Brandon Presumption in many cases. They do not allow these guys to make mistakes. And so rather than say, Kuminga, you're getting 20 minutes, you're going to make some mistakes, but guess what? You sit here, Steve Kerr, and say, well, we need them to be winning basketball because we're a winning basketball team. You're not, though. You have not been a winning basketball team since that championship. Not because of the young guys on your roster, but because this roster, you haven't given them any opportunity to be better. Why did the Nuggets rely on Christian Brown last season? Because he had an opportunity to improve, to succeed, and to fail without being relegated to the last spot on the bench. That was a team that has Jamal Murray out there at point guard. They had opportunities for him to get minutes and improve, and now he's a valuable rotation piece on the defending NBA champions. Golden State hasn't done that. And you look at the game against the Kings, Moses Moody hits 3 straight threes, and Steve Kerr says, after all these years, you have to prove your worth. You have to play well, and we reward you with minutes. He sat his ass on the bench. Earmuffs. Jonathan Kuminga has had big games, and in the fourth quarter he gets set. Last season against the Lakers, when they were getting absolutely dominated by the physicality of Hachimura, AD, and LeBron James, where was Jonathan Kuminga? On the bench. Why? Because he wasn't practicing hard enough? You don't have a team that's built to contend with these guys. You literally have players on this roster that can do it, and you're not putting them in. Meanwhile, Brandon Podziemski comes in, plays 39 minutes, and then gets no minutes. Against the Clippers, he played 30. Plus, the reason the Warriors haven't been able to develop young talent isn't because they're missing on these picks. It's because they haven't been giving their players enough leeway to grow, fail, reassess what you did wrong, and get better. That's a challenge. That's a problem. I think there should be reasonable questions about Steve Kerr in the upper echelon of NBA coaches, because you look at the beginning of his career, what did he do? He took a team that was already on the come up in the NBA in the Western Conference, reestablished it, gave Steph Curry freedom, and they became the best team in the NBA. Then he gets Kevin Durant, they become the best team ever. And then he loses KD, Steph gets injured, and he hasn't really proven to be able to develop and cultivate talent on that team. They haven't been able to hold leads for 2 years in a row. Is that really on the players? I don't think so. All right, enough of that. We're jumping in SimWorld Prep. Huge weekend. Started on Friday. I think the story of the weekend is twofold. It's the first and the third game of our Friday night tripleheader. Let's start with the originators. Cooper Flagg is an absolute menace. This guy, 25 points, 11 of 17 shooting, 4 boards, 3 blocks, a steal, and an assist. There wasn't a single person on the court that could slow down Cooper Flagg. And against basically any other team in SimWorld Prep, you look at Cooper Flagg and you say, you know what? Wait till he plays somebody good. Wait till he plays, the defending champions with Levin Cutler and JoJo Kearney, who a season ago were maybe the best interior big man combination in the NBA or in SimWorld Prep. Flagg obliterated them. There was not a single position. There was probably 3 plays in the entire game in which Cooper Flagg was not dominating, impacting this game. That's not a good thing for Beast of the East, but it's also not a good thing for the rest of the league, because I don't actually think Beast of the East is that bad of a team. Tyree Moy showed out off the bench. I'd expect him to get more than 14 minutes moving forward. Levin Cutler played 21, pretty inefficient, 2 of 8 shooting minutes. Not saying he needs to play 32. I know Coach Drayton doesn't like to do that, but 21 minutes, less than JoJo Kearney, less than Kasim Porter Jr., and on pace with Isaiah James. Again, all those guys aren't playing the same position. That's not ideal. But to the originators, I'm not sure there's going to be a big man combination that can slow this team down. Flagg has the ability to stretch the floor, played 24 minutes, 25 points, 1 for 1 from deep, was plus 30 in his 24 minutes. The starters, this is the benefit for Beast of the East. They actually made some headway. The starters for the originators were awesome. Caleb Boateng plus 28. Cooper Flagg plus 30. Victor Silgauskas plus 26. Justin McGavin plus 26. Jay Laster plus 3. He played a lot with the bench, which actually kind of got run off the floor. They've got to figure out a way to probably stagger the minutes for Flagg and Ilgauskas, or at least something to kind of help that second unit. But Cooper Flagg, this was as good of a first litmus test as we were going to get for Cooper Flagg, and it absolutely proved that he's more than capable of stepping on the floor and dominating. Very contrary to the fact that many people over the summer were absolutely outraged that Cooper Flagg could be the number 1 player in the country in SimWorld Prep without having played a single game. How does that take look right now, man? How does that take look? Second game, third game of the doubleheader, or the tripleheader, but I think a very telling game. Cascadia beats Bay Area. There's 2 points to this, positive and negative. Positive, Kevon Jackson. I mean, talk about just not being able to showcase his skill set a year ago with reigning Trace. 31 points, 14 to 21 shooting, only 1 of 2 from deep. This wasn't just a red-hot three-point shooting night. Kevon Jackson, the dunk god, was getting into the paint, mercilessly attacking. He did a phenomenal job. You like that a lot as you look at Cascadia. Tyree Wells played pretty good. You'd expect maybe a little bit more minutes, but 10 points on 5 of 7 shooting. And then you had a good supporting cast game from guys like Jason Holbrook, who had 10. Tyshawn McGrady, who was very good with the basketball, 4 assists along with Kay Dozier off the bench. This is a good Cascadia team. What was going to separate them within SimWorld Prep was, do they have a guy that can elevate to the highest of powers Kevon Jackson just proved he can do exactly that. Meanwhile, Trey Hyman, 20 points, 3 assists, 6 boards. What was the knock on Hyman? Or at least the considered complaint? Well, he can't score. He can't operate. 10 of 14. You'd like him to take some type of a jumper. I know that's going to knock down your shooting percentage. But 10 of 14, was he up against the best big men in the country? No, he wasn't. But we didn't see a lot of big 20-point nights from Trey Hyman a year ago. He dominated on the defensive end, and everybody said, well, he's got no offensive bag. He's got no offensive bag. He's got something, man. He's got something. You don't walk into 20 on accident. Where they're going to need to find some things is going to be the question mark. Defense was pretty suspect. You allow Cascadia to just erupt for 47 points in the second half. Yeah, your offense was good. But can you find ways? You've got Trey Hyman, who's one of the better defenders in the country. Can you find a way to piece some things together? 75 points should win you basketball games. It really should. And it didn't because they had no answer for Kevon Jackson on the perimeter. And they just could not find a way to slow down the rest of this roster. Is the sky falling? No. But I think this is the beginning of some of the flaws that made me say an outlandish take, which I'm not saying is going to happen, but there could be a sub-500 season out of Bay Area if they can't address some of this and if they can't find a way to support Trey Hyman on both ends of the floor, because he did a phenomenal job on offense. He did a good job on defense, but they'll need to find some other options to slow down opposing point guards and wings because they really got going for Cascadia. All right, that's it. We will be back on some broadcasts this week. A full slate of SimWorld action as we look at the calendar. Tuesday, doubleheader, Bad Boys Run DMV, Best Coast and Reigning Trays, 7 and 9. Wednesday, triple header, Lakeshore Drive. Game of the week, H-Town Hoopers, AT Aliens, and then Harlan Zombie Stars, Reigning Trays to top it off. So that's just the beginning of the iceberg. A lot of activity this week. We've got real basketball playing, and we love it. Talk to you on Friday, or we'll be on the broadcast.